If you're the kind of person who feels like they're super resilient, or that you've lived through quite a lot of adversity and despite that you're still fully functioning in the world, then you might be super normal. Stick around if you want to find out more. Hello, my name is Elfreda Vaughan of Metta-morphics. If you watched my earlier videos, you'll know this series, Under the Circumstances, You're Totally Frickin' Normal, talks about how people can be functioning in the world even though they may have had some really traumatic or crazy life events happen to them. And in my last video, I talked about something called people who are supernormal. And so this comes from the work of Meg Jay. And I came across the whole idea of supernormal quite a few years ago when I was doing research into transcendent children. And these are people who, as children, experience a lot of childhood adversity and then as adults seem to be able to function in the world despite those traumatic experiences. And so Meg Jay, in her book, Supernormal: Childhood Adversity and the Secret of Resilience, talks about how the children of adversity, when they grow up, seem to be quite normal, fully functioning adults. Now, the reason it's called supernormal, or the term is supernormal, is because often these people feel almost invincible. They feel like they've been through all these really, really challenging things in their life and that nothing can really stop them, that they're quite fearless in lots of ways. And so it's almost comparable to the idea of the superhero, that you can be a superhero like Superman and have these superpowers, but also behind that have your kryptonite or have your weak point or the thing that you're concealing. The same as Batman with his childhood past and the fact that he's hiding that he is a multimillionaire. And so when we think of ourselves and we think of the terms of supernormal, and I'm sure you may be one or you may know somebody who's one, there's a lot of us out there, we're talking about somebody who has been through experiences that under normal circumstances we would imagine would prevent them from being able to function well in the world. So what happens is, these are the children who go to school and they're, high achievers, they're doing well in school, they're very successful, they may be extremely successful in their work life as well as adults, but they're concealing the fact that they have all these things going on in their personal life. I know certainly I was very much like that. When I read about, children who are supernormal or supernormal adults, and I read about transcendent children, it really resonated with me because it made an awful lot of sense that here I was out in the world functioning, but behind closed doors I was dealing with, an abusive home life, alcoholism, domestic violence, periods of unemployment for my parents, of disruption, of parental separation. And yet I presented this fairly functioning, fully normal type person. I would have done okay in school. Sure, I hit blips in my teens and in my early 20s, which is very, very common. But most people who are supernormal still seem to come back around. They often have successful careers. They often have very good academic careers or high achievers. They may have, successful relationships, families, all the things that we often are led to believe don't occur when somebody experiences trauma. Now, when you think in terms of trauma, between 70 and 75% of the population experience some kind of trauma in their lifetime, and a huge amount experience it in childhood. So a huge amount experience these childhood adversities. And yet these children are friendly, are coherent, are good communicators, are quite sociable, and do well in the world. And so the big challenge, though, is their kryptonite, is the fact that because they are hiding these secrets, or because they're trying to pretend in a sense like everything is okay, they often struggle themselves personally. And I know the majority of the clients that I work in my coaching practice fall into this supernormal category. They often come to me because something has occurred in their life. Their relationship is broken down. They have difficulty in their employment, or they've achieved a place of balance in their life, and suddenly they realize that the feelings they have and what's going on for them are not necessarily okay. that they don't feel necessarily that they fit in the world. They often feel misunderstood. They feel like people don't understand them. I certainly would have felt like that on many occasions during my lifetime, particularly in my 20s and my 30s, where I didn't feel like I fitted in, or I didn't feel like it was other people, especially in my very early 20s when I was just starting out in work. And I would go to work and I would be functioning, you know, as if I was a normal person in the world. And nobody knew that in my personal life, I had difficulties because I had some difficult personal relationships, and that I was dealing with those difficulties, and they were affecting my self-esteem. They were affecting my confidence. I was often spending my weekends, you know, associating with criminals and with substance misusers. And then I would go back on a Monday as if the world was totally normal and I was successful in my job. I had set up my own business in my early 20s. And so the fascinating thing about this, though, is that because these people are functioning out in the world and they seem normal and healthy, that they're not always recognizing that they're actually feeling challenged. Certainly, I wouldn't have recognized that I was feeling challenged myself. Now, what allows somebody to be supernormal is very, very interesting. And so if we look at the characteristics of a transcendent child or a supernormal adult, what we're looking at is somebody who's able to transcend the adversity that they experience in their life, that they're somehow able to achieve well, probably in school, certainly in their personal life later on, and in their work life and in their social life. And so what allows that to happen is they're usually very future focused, quite goal orientated. They're usually focused on what they're trying to achieve all the time. They're often very personable and they're often very person focused people. So they worry about other people and they're concerned about other people quite a lot. They are very concerned about image as well, and they worry about what other people think about them, which is why they try to portray this image of perfection or success all of the time. Now, there is another quality that is quite interesting, and this comes from the work of Lillian Rubin in her work about transcendent children. And the term she uses, it's quite a loaded term, and I am conscious of this when I use it, but I will qualify it in that she refers to these people as being having the quality of adaptability. But what that means is that they seem to have a quality that allows people to take them under their wings. So they often find that they get support networks or people who take them under their wing and support them and look after them. And certainly in my experience of my own life, that has happened. I remember when I was finished my college or finished my studies in drama and spent a period of time unemployed after that, because I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. If you watched my earlier videos, you'll hear how I failed my third level exams in first year, and I left my science degree, and then I went to study drama, and then I spent some time unemployed. And after that, I decided that I wanted to go back to train to be a drama and communications teacher. And I had no idea how to do that. And I contacted one of my teachers from the college that I'd studied in. And she had her own private drama teaching practice. And she supported me to train as a drama and communications teacher, and supported me then in setting up my own business when I eventually did that when I was 24, a couple of years later. And when I started out, I had a friend of a friend who supported me in my business and took me on to work with her. And through her, I ended up with quite a lot of work eventually in my own drama business at the time. Other people offered me work, and I found that I had lots of other opportunities that presented themselves in my lifetime that allowed me to work too. And so I certainly have had this experience of these mentors, of these people who've reached out to me, who supported me and facilitated me doing well in my lifetime. And what it's taught me and what I've learned from this is that we cannot function on our own. And if you are somebody who considers yourself supernormal, then it's really important that you become aware of the support networks that you have, that if you don't feel you have them, that you reach out to somebody who can help you. And that may be that you go to a paid professional, could be to a coach such as myself, or to somebody else who will allow you to be yourself and to help you to work out the aspects of who you are and how you function in the world that are challenging. I know for myself, presenting an image of perfection, or at least trying to, is very, very stressful, and it creates a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety and a fear of making mistakes and a lot of perfectionism, none of which is good. I know from talking to my clients, and as I said, many of them fall into the category of supernormal. They talk about that experience of having to present this image of always seeming like they're in control. You know, the one not so long ago used the analogy of the swan, where we see the beautiful swan on the surface, but underneath the feet are paddling like mad to keep them gliding along. And we often feel like that we have to present this image. But the reality is there are lots of people who are supernormal out there. There are lots of people who are going to get you when you tell them stories about some of the crazy things that maybe have happened to them. I know for myself, I often talk about, you know, in Friends, where Phoebe Buffay talks about her life, and the others are kind of shocked when she mentions, you know, she lived on the street or these things happen. And I've had that experience myself sometimes, where I would talk about things that I've experienced or talk about events in my life and have people look at me a little bit shocked, thinking, wow, did that really happen to you? Because you seem like you're so normal. And yet it's true. But one of the things I do find is when I work with clients who are supernormal and they tell me their stories, because I understand and because they realize, they recognize in me somebody who's been there, even if it's a little different, it makes it an awful lot easier, because then you don't feel as misunderstood. So having a network is really, really important. The other thing is, though, if you are somebody who is supernormal and now you're in a position such as I am, where things are going that little bit better for you, you're less stressed, you're less concerned about projecting a perfect image, then recognize that other people might need what you've got. Recognize that you can be a mentor. Certainly, I know I get to do this in my work as a coach. I get to do it in my teaching, and I know I do it in my personal life as well, supporting people who maybe need my help. Because we cannot function on our own, and we don't function separately. We are better when we are part of a group. And that is the one thing that the research into supernormal tells us, is that it is the mentors, it is the coaches, it is the friends, it is the people who connect to us that support us. Research into post-traumatic growth tells us the same. We need an expert companion. I'll be talking about post-traumatic growth in a later video as well. So if you are supernormal, think about who you could talk to that might understand you. Certainly, I'm happy to listen if you want to talk to me, and do, you know, subscribe here to the channel. Make sure that you also connect with me if this is something that you feel I can help you with, by connecting with me on my website. You can book a session with me to have a chat. And if I can't help you, I promise I will do my best to find somebody who can. But remember, being supernormal is recognizing that, yes, you are the superhero. Yes, you are invincible, or as I call it, unbreakable. But you do also need other people around you, that they are what often makes the difference, that the successes and the goals and all of those things are amazing. But it is having the opportunity to speak to somebody that understands you, that really sees you and recognizes you, that makes the biggest difference. So I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already. I really hope you'll join me in another video. I would love if our paths crossed again in future.